Welcome to Full Discourse. This is a podcast with me, Josh Elkin. I talk to all people from all walks of the food industry on the internet to discuss the vast internet history. We go through basically archiving everything since the beginning of YouTube, the beginning of Google, to where we are now. And today, I have two famous chaps from all the way in the UK. We got Barry, we got Jamie. How you guys doing today? Sorted Foods.
Very well. Famous is generous, mate.
Yeah, very generous.
Very generous. Thank you. We'll take it.
We are in the UK. So, half true.
Well, listen, before we get into the whole food conversation, before we, talk about how we're the OGs of the industry, I'm originally from Canada, in case you guys didn't know, but Canadians love pretending that they're still part of the monarchy.
Hey, we're all part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's not nothing to be proud of if we're honest with ourselves.
Come on. No, of course it is.
The Queen's face is still on all the coins in Canada. Do you guys have coins over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
I
dollar
think
coins?
that's not a thing in the States. Like, they just have notes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah.
I mean, there's quarters, pennies, dimes, and nickels.
We've got
pennies,
20p's, 10p's. Do we have 5p's anymore?
You still have 5p's? Look, all right, just
I
because
don't
you
think
don't
we do.
deal in cash anymore.
I don't deal in cash. No.
5p's not worth it for me to get involved in.
Yeah.
Who deals in cash? This isn't the most disgusting thing. Before we jump down, I have a bunch of questions. I'm actually really excited to just talk to you guys because like we were talking about before, I've never met actually we just decided we did kind of meet in 2010.
Yeah, it was an awkward encounter in
an elevator, yeah.
I think that doesn't explain anything the way that you want it to.
No, I think it explains everything.
Okay, so we were just talking and I had said I had never met any of you guys except for Ben. And then you said that actually we met in 2010 at one of the first or second VidCons when I was part of Epic Mealtime. We were all just starting out. And I mean, that gives me PTSD because God knows what we said to you or what we did to you at that time. Like we were a bunch of drunken guys.
But I only have the fondest memories from back in VidCon because it was an insane time. And meeting everybody back then, I was a massive YouTube fan. So meeting our heroes left, right, center, and you guys in the lift, I think you probably were drunk. You did have a fair few cans.
I mean, come on.
It was
back then we were all drunk all the time.
It was great. I think I just went extra British and tried to I'm a big fan of you guys. But I think you guys are great, honestly.
Everyone was such a fan of each other back then. It was such a small community. It was such a small pool of creators. I think between you guys and us, and then maybe Rosanna, that was the only food content on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it was really special going to these events and meeting like-minded people because everything was so new. Like no one knew what the heck was going on. No one knew if this was even going to be a thing, right?
It feels to me like the golden era of YouTube where you were fans of different channels and actually the events like VidCon gave you the opportunity to go and meet them. And there weren't managers and agents and everything like that in the way. It was just the creators trying to do something and you go, do you want to do a collab? Yeah, sure. Why not? We haven't got anything else to do. Let's go and do that. Or let's go and hang out. Let's go and have a beer. It felt like a really nice time. And like I say, the number of food creators at that point was minimal. And I think what we found, particularly when it came to doing collabs and trying to grow our audience, was you've got a conversation, you've got a starting point to go from. It's like, hey, can we cook for you? Do you want some food? Like that was such a lovely conversation to start out with. We got collabs in the early days with people that we never should have been able to collab with.
We give all of our growth to those early days of VidCon.
Yeah.
Because at VidCon, you could go up to everybody from Rhett and Link to Taze on Day and tap them on the shoulder and you'd have a collab. And there was nobody buzzing around them apart from other creators. And no agents, no noise. It was wonderful.
And there wasn't any other platform. It's it was just YouTube for videos. And then if you had something to say, it was Twitter. That was it.
Yep. That was it.
Yep.
Right?
Every platform did one thing and one thing well.
Yeah. And I talked about this with Josh Scherer from Mythical Kitchen. I talked about this with Rosanna. I talked about this with Jimmy Wong. if you were big on YouTube, you were big on Twitter. Now every platform has its own ecosystem. Now it's like you're a TikToker, you're an Instagrammer, you're a Snapchatter, etc. So it was simpler times back then. No managers, no, as you said, no noise. Collaborations meant so much more because you were actually like connecting with someone. It wasn't just trying to like suck clout out of someone else. You know what I mean? This is a good segue into me asking, like, how did it feel? I know, like, you guys don't consider yourselves celebrities, but like to me, you're a celebrity because when I think about UK food outside of television, I think about you guys right away. You're the first people I think about. So, like, the difference between being a YouTuber with notable presence here versus being a YouTuber with notable presence there was drastically different, right? Like, did you experience that? Did you experience like that type of, I'm just going to say celebrity?
No. The weirdest thing about our online fame is from day one, our brand's been global. So therefore, our biggest territory has always been in America, not in the UK.
Mm.
So actually, as a household name in the UK, we don't get when in the UK you think of chefs, you'll think of all the classic TV chefs from the 90s and noughties, and they're still the same chefs people talk about today. Everybody else who comes into it, they kind of come and they go. We've never had that level of fame in the UK. We get it more when we travel. And again, that's kind of why we say we're not famous in any which way, because again, we just muck around as mates on camera. And that's a representation of our actual genuine relationship in real life as well.
Yeah, but it felt like in those early days, like LA became the hub for creators to move to. But, you know, obvious with the Hollywood connections and things like that, but loads of creators seem to move to LA in the US, and that's where these collaboration opportunities came from. People became friends. They had these networks that they grew, and that didn't happen as much in the UK. There were kind of like, there was a bit of a London creator scene, but it wasn't
the British invasion.
There was a British invasion, and that was like based out of like Norwich, because that's where you know the Chapmans were and people like that, and but they were very much less location based and more situation based. So you had like the group of vloggers who all came together underneath a network, and then they went and did everything together. So they kind of like bonded over that. We were always quite independent. And we never kind of joined any major network, particularly in those early days. And when we did, it was based out of LA. So we were traveling back and forth to LA quite a bit.
Also, back then, we were kids, you're growing up. And I think so many people with collaborations just almost hunted for views. And like, it was quite a bit of a dangerous time. I think what we tried to do is, I think we decided, let's just go find people that we just enjoy working with. And we've got good mates from the back of that. And therefore, it kind of grew organically. We weren't chasing views. I think we know your producer, Diane, from working with Grace on her podcast. And like, yeah, there's a good group of us now who met back in the glory days and still making like great content now.
The difference is, and I see this because I do a lot of short form videos now. And actually the birth of this podcast was because I was meeting all these new short form creators who were asking me about the legacy days, who asked me about like, how was it back in the day? Like it made me feel old as shit. But the difference I think between now and then was back then you were making full length videos. You were making like 3, 5, 8 minute food based videos, which, as we know, takes an entire day to kind of produce, whether you're cooking or, you know, just like you're waiting for something to cook or whatever it is. So you spend more time with these people. You spend more time with these like-minded creators versus now. I know some guys that like get together for an hour, bang out like 3 1-minute videos and then like never talk again. Right. So
yeah.
It actually says something to the glory days, as you said, because it's 10 years later, it's 15 years later, and you still probably speak to a lot of the same people that you collaborated with at the beginning, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting is knowing that a lot of those creators have also moved on in that time as well. And either they've taken sort of stepped back from a creator role and have taken other jobs either in the wider creator industry or have gone on to do something completely different. Because I think also at that point, no one necessarily expected this to become a job, a career. It kind of, for a lot of people, it happened by accident, and they kind of did it for a few years, and they went, "Do you know what? This isn't what I planned to do with my life. This isn't what I wanted to do career-wise." And how do you move on from that? It's really interesting, particularly in the last year or so. You've seen a number of creators announce that they're taking a step back and they're retiring, which is mad.
And I think the key is making sure that during that phase you enjoy it to the best of your ability. Like, do you look back now? Do you feel like you got what you wanted out of it? Did you enjoy that period of time?
That's a great question. I never, and I am that demographic where I never ever thought this would be something that could be viable. Even at the early days of Epic Mealtime, like we were just doing it because it was fun to do and we didn't have to go work a traditional job. But with the evolution of social media and like where we're at in the creator economy, there's so much room for growth. And when these big guys or people are saying that they're retiring, you really know like they're not actually retiring. They're just like moving on to something else. Like maybe they'll retire from making daily videos because of that daily grind, but they'll go on to sort of produce something else like a podcast or maybe make a network or some sort of like company or corporation, which we're able to do now, which we weren't able to do then. I talked about on a past podcast, like, at the beginning, early days when you signed a brand deal, it was almost like you were selling out. You remember that whole thing? Like you're selling out because you're getting paid. Like now it's second nature. Like now it's like, if it's not a brand deal, it's like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? So to answer your question, no, I never thought that this would be a thing. I never thought that I'd be living in Los Angeles. I never thought that I'd be producing my own content. I never thought that I'd have 14 years of thousands of recipes and just be able to cook. I talked about it. I had a cookout, like leisurely cookout with a buddy of mine on Saturday, and he's also in the industry, and we stopped and looked at each other like, this is what we do. Like, this is our job. We're making like smoked pork belly and like grilled radicchio salad with plums. And I'm like, I take it on Snapchat. I'm like, we get paid for this. Isn't that like fucked up? And I'm sure you guys think the same thing. Like, you guys have been friends for forever, right? Even before you started doing this. So to have this conversation in 2024 to talk about then is a wild concept to me when you really think about it, Yeah,
we were mates since the age of, we knew each other since the age of 12.
Yeah.
Now mid-30s, shall we say? Mid-30s, definitely mid-30s.
Clinging on to the mid. Yeah.
Just. And we're at the, I think also when we knew each other, when we first met, even to the early days of Sorted, no interest in food. Didn't care less about food. And the fact that we find ourselves here having endless food battles and debates and learning the most outrageous things, tasting the most incredible dishes, you sit there and go, what are we doing? How did we get here?
Yeah. I mean, I've got like other friends from other groups.
Don't be silly.
Who don't have they don't have the same friendship group from school that we have. And it's, there's the four of us who still do Sorted, but there was a wider friendship group that began the conversation and things like that. And we still meet up with them. And all of our shit jokes still come from when we meet up with them.
Yeah.
Because
they've proper jobs. Like some are in banking, some
doctors
saving lives. Yeah. And we're making cooking videos.
Hey, it's arguable you're saving lives as well. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, it's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
It's only when you catch up with those guys you realise again, like they take what we do actually quite seriously, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They sit, but it's all the people like I went to university and all the people that did the same degree that I do who have gone on to get like big marketing jobs in big companies, and you're kind of like looking from the sidelines going, you're going to work and doing a really serious job, and I'm making a volcano out of rice today, which is going to have a melty cheese and egg lava.
Sounds amazing, by the way.
My favourite recent story of like what it's of life of a YouTube creator, and simultaneously being a dad of two comes from this man when he had an opportunity to collaborate with the Sidemen.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah. So I was making my kids breakfast in the morning before they went off to school. I was like giving them the cereal, some fruit. Went, Daddy, what are you doing today? I was like, oh, I'm going to do a video with the Sidemen. Like, oh, what do you have to do for that? I was like, I'm going to go play hide and seek in a rugby stadium. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah. You have to go to school. I'm going to go and play hide and seek. And if you work really, really hard, then one day you might have a job where you can play hide and seek. Like, just
ridiculous.
Completely and utterly ridiculous.
Okay. In all fairness, okay, first of all, hide and seek is an amazing game. Love that
It's
game.
great game.
Always love that game. Just to put it into context, it's not like you're just going there, you're playing one round of hide and seek. Like being on camera, having production, it's like there is a lot of effort there. You know, the base of it, the surface level is like, yeah, this guy's going to play hide and seek. What is your life? But as we know, being on set for an entire day, like it takes a toll. It's hard. But I get the same thing, by the way, not from children, but from my friends who have children who are going to work and like selling advertising or, you know, like working as an accountant. What'd you do today? Oh, I took a day trip to Vegas and raced a McLaren. You know?
And then you went to work?
Their answer is always the same. It's like, oh, must be nice. And I was like, it's actually pretty great.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because the outside in, it looks amazing. Yeah. And from the inside, a lot of the time it is amazing. What no one sees is we run a business that makes doing that fun stuff possible.
Right.
And, you know, there is definitely two sides to the coin. It's just that the good side is generally really good.
And it outweighs all the hard bits. So therefore 100%. You kind of just have to simply, like anyone who tries to give you a hard time, you go, yeah, no, fair enough. Like, I can't expect anybody to sympathize with me in this moment of, I had a late night last night in a meeting. So what? Get on with it. But you're making cooking videos.
Yeah, sure. So like an accountant's crunching numbers. What do your parents think about where you started and where you're at right now, or the family members or people in your life that, you know, started in the traditional things of whatever? Like, how does that sound?
I think yours is different because yours is involved. But for me, my mentor was always my granddad. He started a business very, very young. He ran like estate agent business, which he ran for his whole life. So when we started Sorted, and it was always just fun at the beginning, he was always very happy to sort of give advice and try to understand how this could become something. And then when it got to the point where we're like, I think I'm going to quit my job, and I think this is turning into something, then you kind of get all sort of like the advice of, you need to make sure you're careful, you need to have a plan, but this does sound really exciting and really interesting. How does it make money? And those kind of things. I think now, sort of 15 years down the line, my family are kind of on board with, okay, I understand this now. They don't understand it all, but they get how it makes money.
Jay, they knew it was coming. Like, you went to university to pretend to go get a proper degree. What they know, all you did throughout school, you were the drama boy. Yeah. You were the boy who were always a thespian, always playing up to the camera. You were the artful dodger in the play. Yeah. The fact that you ended up having a career on camera was no surprise to them whatsoever.
Yeah, but
they're just boosting your ego, going business. But you keep playing on camera. That's what you're good at. He's happy, everybody.
Hey, that is a skill. That is definitely not alert. It's not you have to learn that. That's for sure. You look back at one of my first videos ever versus a video where I like today, it's like a different person. And being able to be on camera, comfortable, it's such an unnatural thing to see yourself on camera, to be on camera. So to act somewhat natural is a skill. Okay.
If you want to see a transformation on camera, you should watch the early videos of Baz, because that is
well, you think
that is special.
Back in the day, you cared too much, don't you? Like,
yeah.
When you're young, you're looking at yourself at every angle. You develop multiple complexes on your character, and then over time, you just start to give less shits. and therefore it becomes more normal.
And it's more fun. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
What about you? What was your situation with that?
Weirdly, my dad's always been involved in Sorted from the very beginning. He kind of encouraged us to just play in the early days. He knew that we were fans of YouTube and was like, "Okay, you want to go do that? Go give it a go." I didn't go to university, so I had a bit more time to play. So that's kind of how this all got started in a weird way. And then with support with my family, my brother was involved at the beginning. My nan went to the same theatre school as your nan, so like it's weirdly all connected, and therefore it's kind of not a surprise. It's ridiculous, but the fact that when it happens, everyone will go, "Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That ends up that way." But in the moment, you wouldn't have dreamed of it.
Right. You're 100% right. And by the way, just to echo what you were saying, my parents still don't get it. How do you make money again? What do you do? But okay, so you guys, the whole reason you started the channel was to sort of like redefine the meaning and the definition of like UK food and sort of change the narrative of what we kind of grew up doing. In Canada, it was the same thing, which was eating frozen foods, eating microwavable foods, taking out takeout and all these things. How do you feel like the landscape of food has changed? We're getting into the nitty gritty right now, by the way. How do you feel like the landscape of food has changed, not only from the public perspective, but also from your guys' perspective? And like, can you talk about like to defend the whole outside looking in of what UK food is? Because I had a recent experience with a conversation with a dude about what I thought UK food was, and he basically blew me away. So can you speak about like the beige food, the fried food, like where are we at? Because like I grew up only eating beige food, like French fries, pizza, pasta.
As food creators, we have food. Yeah, we've got lucky in terms of we've started this alongside YouTube, but also as there's been a wave of cultural change within food as well. Like we grew up, I think our generation is called the microwave generation, where the sound of stabbing a microwave meal and the ding of the oven is our childhood. And therefore our relationship with food is very much, it's built on convenience. And our parents, well, my parents definitely couldn't cook at all. Therefore I couldn't cook. And that's kind of why, again, and all of us in the same situation, Sorted was starting a way of going, we can't be the only people here with this problem. We had a friend who was a chef who wasn't brought up in that manner and was breaking that kind of status quo. So therefore, we're like, okay, let's go on that journey and see who else is troubled by this situation and let's go on that journey together. So at no point will we be saying British food is the best food. We're just saying, we think it's a bit rubbish as well. Let's work together and see where it takes us and see if there is a better version of British and global foods. And then over the years, you can jump forward 5, 10, 15 years. With each 5 years, the landscape and the conversation around food has evolved so quickly. When we started, my aunt was the only vegetarian I knew.
Oh, really?
Which is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. 20 years ago, she was the only vegetarian I knew. Whereas now, again, it's not the same talking about vegetarians specifically, but the conversations around every element of food is an open book. Everyone's talking about it. Back then, there's only one way of eating. It's this way.
Well, I remember, like, when was that? 2012, 2013. We uploaded a video of vegan fish curry.
Yeah.
And it got precisely
vegan fish curry.
No, probably not.
I was like, wait, explain that.
Point. No,
explain that.
There was a vegan curry.
Yeah, it was a vegan
probably
curry.
Without fish.
Yeah, sans fish.
Sans fish. And we uploaded it as a video, and it got like precisely 7 views because at that point you couldn't put vegan into a title of a YouTube video because no one would watch it. That was such a specialist diet.
Unless it was satire, unless you were like doing something stupid.
Exactly. Right? Whereas now, plant-based and vegetarian and all of they're synonymous with anything that you're talking about with food. And so just even seeing that change over the last few years has been a really big shift.
Well, you talk about veganism and vegetarianism here on this side, it's been around forever. Like I was a kid and I remember seeing like veggie burgers being a thing. I think the
But
difference
they were
now,
rubbish back then, weren't they? To clarify,
I mean,
veggie burgers back when we were
terrible.
growing
Yeah.
up weren't good.
It wasn't good. It was like dry. But now you can make, taking lion's mane mushroom and making it into like a fried chicken. So this is exactly what I'm saying, right? Like back then it was almost a punishment. Now it doesn't matter if you eat meat or not. Like I go to vegetarian restaurants, I go to vegan restaurants just to switch it up. You know what I'm saying? So like the type of cuisine, the nuance of vegetarian food and vegan food has completely changed over the years.
Until you go to the in the middle of Europe, go to France. It's a tough life as a vegetarian in France
I
or
believe
many
it.
parts of Italy. And it's like there aren't options the same way. I think there's a danger we start to kid ourselves that the major cities in the world are a reflection of everywhere else. Because in London, the food in London is spectacular. You go out into, I don't know, past into nowhere, and there'll be limited options. You'll find great food, but you have to hunt for it. And it's the same across the rest of the world. If you know where to go, it's great. Yeah. The cities are safe bets. In the country, you need to know where to go. And I think sometimes when you go to those little places, they're a better reflection on people's general perception of food in that area.
There was a trip we did to France, and we ended up in this market in Paris, and it was like a press trip type thing, and they put on this 3-course meal for us. And there were
wait, was this recently? Was this like a couple months ago?
This was a couple of years ago.
Okay. Ben was one with a bunch of Americans a couple months ago that I knew in France also.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I thought you were referring to.
It was a really lovely steak restaurant. There was a couple of vegetarians with us, and they just brought out all of these plates, and the starter was beef carpaccio. And I was like looking at going, this is great. And the two vegetarians kind of like looked at each other and just went, can we have is there a vegetarian option? And
what bit do you take out to make it veg?
The French waiters just went, do not worry, it is sliced very thin. I was like, that's not okay, fine. And then it came around to the main course, and these beautiful steaks came out that were sort of like on the rarer side of medium rare. And again, the vegetarians just put up their hand and went, is there a vegetarian option? And the waiter picked it up and went, don't worry, I'll have the chef cook this a little bit longer for you. And walked off, took it back to the kitchen and came back to it. So it was slightly less bloody, because that was, in their mind, that was the problem with it for a vegetarian.
Yeah, I went to another trip we did, Giuseppe, Sepp's Eats.
Yes.
Vegan, only vegan on the trip. It became a running joke that every restaurant we went to where they served a dessert, he was almost like, so the dessert today is cheesecake. And he goes, let me guess, there's only one thing they'll do as a replacement for cheesecake, a gelato. And every restaurant we went to, everyone had the most spectacular desserts, and he always was given a gelato. Lovely gelatos. He's like, please, there are other vegan desserts other than just gelato. So central kind of city kind of based restaurants, there's plenty of options.
Also, I think
I get that.
I think living online as well, you realise how forward thinking people are when it comes to food, because they are keeping up with the trends, they are keeping up with what's new and what's hot. And yeah, when you go back into sort of like a small country pub or something like that in England, and you realise, oh, this menu hasn't changed in 20 years, it's still the same.
Yeah. And that's the cartoon version of the UK food that I think about, right? Like a beef stew with a Yorkshire pudding or something like that, No, delicious.
Have you had?
Don't get me wrong.
Have you had jacket potato, beans and cheese?
No. Wait. Say that again.
Jacket potato.
Or baked potato.
Yeah.
Okay, jacket potato.
So
cool.
a baked, it's a jacket because it's a potato in a jacket.
Yes, makes sense.
With a ton of butter.
Yeah.
Mashed in, and then cheddar cheese, and then a tin of Heinz beans.
So I have a whole bunch of Heinz beans downstairs from the UK.
Yes.
So I am 100% going to try that because it sounds delicious.
It's the simplest thing in the world, but it's what I think well, I definitely grew up on.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're feeling fancy, it was tuna mayo with cheese.
All right.
Oh.
Smelly.
Yeah.
There's only one thing I don't eat, and it's tuna fish from a can. It's the only thing I
What are you
don't
talking
eat.
about? Oh, mix it with enough mayonnaise. It's delicious.
Ugh, disgusting. I can't. Sometimes I can't even eat chicken salad because it looks like it. Like this is a trauma. This is a trauma I've had since being 6 years old. So I don't want to go down that road right now. But the interesting thing about these smaller villages and like going up north and into the countrysides and them not having as of a vast like menu options as like a big city like London, it used to be the kind of the same thing here stateside. And when I say stateside, I mean Canada too. Like we're basically one and the same. And everyone, like back when I was a kid, there was specific food cities. Like I'm from Montreal, right? It used to be the number one food city in all of North America because it's very European and there's a lot of like diversity. And then as I grew older to where I'm at right now, every city in North America is a food city. Every city has like great food. It took a long time to get to that, right? It took a long time for whether it was people leaving major centers like LA to go to like, you know, Charleston, South Carolina or Tennessee. Like every city now has their own specific kind of good food in it. And I'm sure like slowly but surely that's kind of also happening in the UK, right? Like when I was a kid, London food wasn't really anything to talk about. And as you just said, the food there is amazing now, right?
Yeah, it's like the world has come to London in terms of food and the influence of food that we get here. And the biggest drive for that feels like it's been street food markets. So it's kind of that food truck scene and stalls that have been set up. And the number of stalls that have now become bricks and mortar restaurants is incredible. That's happened in London. And it's also happened in the big cities, you know, Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool. They've all got incredible food scenes themselves. And I think there's two parts to it. You need somebody who's got the guts to go and do it and say, right, no, I'm going to go and do Sri Lankan food. And I'm going to do the best Sri Lankan street food that I can in Manchester. And that's one thing, but then you also need the customers. You need the education for people to go, do you know what? I want to try that. Or I've had this before somewhere else and I want to have it again. Now I can get it here. And you need to build up that community. And I think social media has really helped with that.
Definitely.
Because people have started following the Instagram accounts of people that are running these street food stalls or food trucks and go, right, we're going to be here at this market on this day and this is what we're serving. And you've got this picture of the most amazing looking food. And that causes a queue. And then you've got a queue, you've got custom, and they can grow from that. And I think that's been the amazing thing that's happened over the last few years. And it is, you're right, because it is those people moving out of the big hubs into smaller towns. And every now and again, you go to a smaller town and there is really decent food. Like I say, you've still got to hunt it out. It's only where you kind of got those hubs of markets that really makes it possible to get it on a wider scale.
I think that's where you're right. I think America is ahead of us there in terms of when you go to, we've done a lot of traveling across America to a lot of like the cities in Middle America as well, which we when they're expecting not to find like the finest cuisines. But again, I think America's probably more culturally diverse in the cities where there's a much bigger influence where you go into the middle and you're in like the next biggest Korean population other than Korea itself is in this city. So of course the Korean food is going to be amazing. And that was the case for many, many cities across America. In the UK, where it's growing up, we grew up with I tell you what, the most our assumption to fine dining or high quality food was French food served on a silver spoon. Is kind of what our
white tablecloths.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas comfort food was an Indian, a Chinese, fish and chips, like almost just basic like foreign foods would fill you up, and it was almost that was our assumption as kids. Now, growing up, because I think as time because of social media and everyone having a voice and rightly so, we're all kind of it's a cultural hot pot also it's London. There's every type of cuisine, every type of foreign influence in London is there. You're spoiled for choice, and suddenly there is what we were eating back then of the general curry wasn't actually an Indian curry at all. It was a British version of a curry that was awful. Our minds are so much. There's so much opportunity to think bigger now because of social media.
So you're 100% right. I think that like the younger generation and even like our age people and the way we grew up as being millennials, we kind of like walked into that to open it up for the younger generation to kind of explore and want to try those things. Like if it wasn't for, so I grew up watching Food Network before food internet was a thing. My biggest influence, forgive me in advance, was Jamie Oliver. Okay.
He's fine.
No, I know, but you know,
He's fine.
It's touch and go in the UK. But no, for real. Like I grew up watching Julia Child, Jacques Pepin, Frugal Gourmet on PBS. My parents watched that shit before Food Network was even a thing. Then Food Network comes around, and all of a sudden there's this like 19-year-old kid. I've told this story so many times. There's this 19-year-old kid with a show called Naked Chef, being a perverse preteen. I'm like, naked? Is this a naked cooking show? Like, are they going to be naked cooking? Obviously not, but I fell in love with like the style of making things so approachable and like talking about the food in such an interesting way. Lots of colors, lots of like, what I liked about him back then is he would just like mix things with his hands. He would throw things together in a bowl with like a bunch of different like dressings and shit like that. And so that actually gave me a lot of inspiration to want to start cooking. Before Epic Mealtime happened, before the internet, I was cooking like as a joke for my friends because my parents didn't let me use their kitchen. So I'd go to my friends' houses and their parents would let me. So I'd make like dumb things, you know? And if you think about that, and then you go into the Gordon Ramsays, you go into the Anthony Bourdains, and you kind of like insert all these Food Network cooking shows and adjacent, then older people like us get to step into the light of YouTube and start creating food content, which the younger kids then start watching. And now you fast forward 15 years later and food is more approachable. Food is, like you said, on social media, it's there. You could see a food reviewer talking about this like beautiful dish and where to find it. But none of that kind of would have happened if it wasn't for like the latter, right? Mm. So how do you guys feel about sort of being that bridge, like from legacy food media cooking shows to YouTube, which, you know, like I said, ultimately birthed this, like we helped birth this wave of food, in my opinion, to be selfish, right?
Yeah, well, I think your point on Jamie Oliver, like he was, I think he was the last big chef in the UK. Like since him, no one else has really come in and taken his place. I mean, Gordon Ramsay was before him, but he's still here. So he
also very different, right? They're so different.
Yeah, completely different. But it was more what we try to do from the outset, even in our like complete naivety. The only thing we ever had a plan on was to not make shows the way TV make them. So we wanted to do something in a way. Go, okay, it will there'll be hints of TV in terms of it'll be formatted, and there'll be a structure to it. But at the same time, it's the same thing that's working now. Like lo-fi, make it real. The same thing Jamie Oliver was doing times 1,000 in terms of we haven't got the budgets. Let's celebrate that. Let's just focus on the food and the stories that come along with it. I think we were one of the first to do it in that manner in food. There was, like you said, it was a handful of people. I think, we can say that we paved the way in that sense with that type of food anyway. And today as well, it's still, we don't want to make food too fussy. It's about a conversation. It's not about our opinions. It's about opening the doors for other opinions, really.
I think that's the big thing. Because I think the format of a cooking show has always been, hello, I'm a chef. I'm an expert. Here is how I make a lasagna. And this is why you should make it this way as well. And I think from day one, we had that in Ben. We had a chef. And what we did differently was
We told him to shut up.
yeah, we put two idiots next to him and went, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it like that. Or asking the question and going, but why are you doing it like that? Could you not do it like this? And then you have a load of YouTube comments that are doing exactly the same thing, going, hang on a second, that's not the way my mum makes lasagna. She puts milk into the ragu, and you suddenly get all of these different opinions. And actually, it's a communal cooking show. It's a community having a conversation around food, rather than putting chefs on a pedestal and saying this is 100% the way that it should be done.
And what was lovely about that transformation is 5 or 6 years into it, Jamie Oliver's lot came to us and asked us for some tips about how to launch their YouTube channel, which is great. Tastemade worked with us to help launch Tastemade. We helped launch Tastemade. Like lots of all the proper big corporate companies were coming to a bunch of dweebs on the internet and going, why is yours working and ours isn't in this space? And we kind of help them understand that space. So again, I'm really proud of what we did in that early phase, to stick to our guns and create something a little bit different. But I think like we've never had a single viral video. Like you won't go to our video. I think our most viewed video is
4 million.
Is 4 million, which in today's day and age is pathetic. The thing we're most proud of is that we've always been there. We've never had a year where we're going backwards. We're always growing, and that's kind of been, I think, the thing we're most proud of. And I think the reason why we never call ourselves OG YouTubers, but other people will call us that. And you go, the fact that we're that and we're still in the position we're in now and the effect we're having on food, yeah, it's something we're really proud of.
We've created the content that we want to watch, and I think that's kind of been the main thing for us. And obviously, over 14, 15 years, we've grown. We've got different tastes. We've got better at cooking sometimes, and what we like has changed, and so therefore the content that we've made has kind of transformed along with that, and we can focus more on us as normal home cooks cooking, because we can actually cook a bit more now, and we want to go and explore cuisines from around the world, because that's what interests us. So we'll find experts and chefs and bring them in to teach us about specific areas of food that we don't know as much about, and we can highlight them. And we've somehow managed to get this connection with this community of people around the world who share the passion of food with us, want to learn, want to share their knowledge in the comments section as well. And then you see it move on to sort of short form content, and we're still figuring out exactly how we should create that short form content. What does that look like for Sorted and for us? What do we want to do in 30 or 60 seconds that we can't do in 10, 15, 20 minutes, which is where we kind of have built the brand out over the last 15 years.
On getting new people onto our show, Josh, when you come into London?
Actually, I want to come ASAP. There's so many things I want to do there. So we'll talk off camera later. But first of all, fine. You don't want to be called an OG? Let's say pioneer. Sounds a little bit better.
Yeah, much more modest.
YouTube food pioneer. But with that said, like the state of British food pop culture, the state of where it's at now versus where you were when you were kids. Like, can you speak on that a little bit? Like we briefly talked about it, but like talk more. I want to know more, because as far as I'm concerned, it's like I said before, bangers and mash, Yorkshire pudding, Sunday roast, chicken tikka, fish and chips. That's all I know.
I feel like we have better versions of those now.
100%. I think when people think of British food, they have a stereotype in their mind, and they are not wrong. Like, they are 100% the stereotypes. And if you go walk into any pub, you will still be able to get a steak and ale pie, fish and chips, a burger. That will all exist. The difference now is you can go into certain places and you can get exceptional world-class versions of those dishes. And I think when we started, you probably couldn't.
Yeah, I think we live in a very foodie world. There are much better versions out there than we used to. But I think in the UK, I still think mediocrity is accepted with food. I think when you go...
We don't have the same... 9
times out of 10, a pub is serving mediocre British food.
Considering how close we are to the rest of Europe, like France, Spain, Italy, Greece, how much all of those countries, the culture around food is this is family time. We all sit around the table. We all eat. We have incredible ingredients. We celebrate them in the most simple and the most delicious ways possible. That culture doesn't exist in the UK. It never has done. And I still don't know why. And you can have pioneer chefs like Jamie Oliver who can make it exciting and can make it really interesting and make it accessible. And people cook more, but they're cooking Italian dishes. They're cooking the Spanish dishes because he's just done a series on Spain. They're not cooking British dishes better. And it's really interesting.
We're also really getting used to spending a lot of money on average food as well. Like good food in restaurants doesn't have to cost more. Like there's chain pubs are a thing in the UK, franchise pubs, where basically you go to one pub and they serve the exact same pie and mash in every single pub. They're just reheated in a microwave. But people are still happy to spend like £14-15 on said pie. You can go to a Michelin star rated pub and pay the same amount of money for an exceptional pie. But people don't. Like the British, we like our comforts
and convenience,
and they're kind of convenience, and they're happy with mediocrity. Like it fills a hole. It's absolutely fine. I think, outside of the foodie bubble that we live in, I still think it's quite average. You have to know where to go. But that's like anywhere.
It is like anywhere. You want to talk about mediocrity and average? This country. Okay. When it comes to, you were saying like when you go to smaller cities and such, you have to kind of like sniff it out. You have to sort of like know where to go. It's the same here, man. I was in Miami a couple weeks ago, and Miami's got great food, but let's say there's 100, there's a lot more than 100, but let's say like in one area, there's 100 restaurants. 50 of them are like pretend good, right? 30 of them are like kind of good, and only like a small amount are actually exceptional. I think that rule, money aside, that rule applies to everywhere. And I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like people for convenience will spend that same amount of money for an average familiar thing that they can get here and they can get there versus like trying something new, right? Versus like experimenting with maybe, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but like finding a place that is no one even knows about, and you have an exceptional thing that you never thought existed there. You wouldn't have done that had you not wanting to try it, have you not wanted to kind of explore and test it. And I think, what do you guys think about people in the UK like kind of wanting to experiment, like the wanting to try a random place that might be a gem?
I think people are definitely more fascinated by the cuisines around the world, more so in the UK. I think also I want to point out I think the stigma around British food is from America to England, not the rest of the world to England.
Do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's almost a cultural kind of stigma. Same as like British people have bad teeth and they've got shit food. Like that's just kind of what America think. That's what they think of us.
Well, you're not doing a great job.
I'm really trying hard. I can't cook. I've got shit teeth. But
I got shit teeth too.
That,
so
it's like, but it's really hard to shake that off. And I think within London, and the food is within the UK, people are much more playful with what they're eating, what they're cooking. We've got this app called Psychic, which our audience are using regularly. And when we first launched it, like just the basic chicken recipes were the most popular. Whereas now people on the platform are using happily cooking with gochujang, miso paste. They're much more, because we can see that data. We can see how their cooking habits have changed over the last couple of years as well. So people are much more playful than they used to be.
You guys did that, by the way. You did that. You made people more playful. Even with you saying with this app, like this is you guys are a real I don't know the word I'm looking for, but inspiration and a real pioneer in this space. I gotta say,
Yeah, I think
for sure.
the only thing that we do that I think we do have an influence on is, so a lot of our show and a lot of our approach is about we lift a cloche on said type of dish or ingredient, and all we do when we lift that cloche is we start from a blank canvas and go right, blank slate, and we go right, how do we appreciate this food to the best of its ability and understand where it's from, how it's got here, what it's here to do, and build from there again. Try to wipe our preconceptions or something. I think that's an important thing that we try to get our audience to do the same thing, is just before entering into a restaurant or cooking a dish, is just appreciate what's in front of you. It's everything we learned in Japan, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, the love and the respect that's gone into a dish and a culture that we don't necessarily understand. And we don't know when we lift the cloche, are we having the best version of that that we possibly can or not? You don't know at that point. You just have to take it at the face value of what's there. Do you like it? Can you see it? Could you try and build that into something else? And yeah, we've picked out those, what we call like flavor bombs, like gochujang and miso, and go, do you know what? You could just add this into a bolognese and it will completely change the bolognese. And it's that simple. Do everything in exactly the same way that you have done before. Just put a teaspoon of this in. See how it makes a difference. And I think building from that level upwards, where people have that familiarity, and then you can blow their minds a little bit before you push them to go and create, now have an okonomiyaki. Because whoa, if you start there, you're
baby steps.
Gonna really kind of exactly. And it's those little ingredients. Just buy a pot of this. It's going to be £3. Buy a pot of it. Use it in a couple of dishes that you're cooking otherwise. See how you get on, and then you see people progressing from there, and it's amazing. Yeah,
for sure, and testing more, which is a beautiful thing. So, what's next on Sorted's plate? What are you guys working on?
What are we working on?
Other than short form content,
so much stupid stuff we're working on at the moment. Probably the most stupid is we're doing a lot of live stuff at the moment. So we now do live shows, ticketed events online. In the past, we've done a wild weekender where we took over a house with a pool, and we put on a 2-day online festival. That was insane.
Wow.
Following that, we took over a pub in a wintry, Halloweeny, scary Snow Way Out pub.
Spooky.
Where we did lots of Christmas games that again ended in carnage. And then this year we've got, when's this coming out? It might have come out already. I don't know. It should be fine. We're doing Battle Royale with cheese, where we're doing KSI and Logan Paul inspired. We've got a WrestleMania type food battle thing that we're doing in the studio. We've got a live studio audience. We've got a boxing ring set up, and we're having food battles live.
I love that.
It's as ridiculous as it sounds.
It does sound ridiculous. Sign me up.
Not sponsored by Prime.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. You never know with those guys.
Yeah.
They come with the check. All of a sudden, it's like Sorted Food, cheese version of Prime.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. It's really great talking to you guys. I can't believe we've never, hung out. We've met clearly, but never hung out. So I got to get my ass out to London, and I promise you I will.
Absolutely.
I would love to have you guys back on the pod, maybe with Ben or whoever else on your team. But before I let you go, I need some food recs, one from each of you, for when I come to London, that we can go out together. So give me like a spot.
Okay.
Give me a spot.
I'll go first. Oh, that makes it a lot.
If you steal my good one,
right? That makes it a lot easier.
I want just a heads up. I would love an elevated version of what you were talking about, like an elevated bangers and mash. And breakfast is my thing. So
okay, cool. This is
something
it.
Like that.
There's only one. There's only one.
Fallow is the place that you need to go to. It's two guys. They've just opened a second or a third one as well.
Yeah.
And they do British food, but it's British food like you've never seen before.
Yeah.
So where we talk about fish and chips, the guys came into the studio here to show us their kind of version of a fish and chips, which was, let's slap down a whole cod's head into a frying pan, set it on fire, flambe it, and then put it on the table as the whole cod's head, and let you dig in to get the cod's cheeks, get all of the meat in a way that you would never usually do. And the food is absolutely exceptional. They don't need any help from us because they're really
No,
successful
they
already.
don't.
But
No, this is for me personally.
They
Like I want
Okay, yeah,
this.
so
You know.
we'll take when you come up. We'll book your table at Fallow, and then my favourite restaurant is one of the a guilty pleasure in the UK is after you've been out and you've had a few too many, a greasy kebab is like it's really hard to
I know
beat.
what you can say.
I'm not going to say the Silver Jubilee in Potter's Bar,
No, right.
but I am going to say there's Berenjak is it's Middle Eastern kebab style food, but again it's elevated to the nth degree, and it's really really affordable, delicious food, and their hummus. Oh, their hummus.
Okay, so we're gonna have to handle that when's the best time for me to come there?
The weather's shit all year round, so
Yeah,
anytime you
just
like.
whenever.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Oh, it's
matter.
not like here where everything's changing.
Oh, no.
On the East Coast, it's like the same weather as it is in New York. It's the same weather as here in LA. So, yeah, I thought maybe.
Yeah, you basically no matter what time of year you come, you don't know what you're going to get.
Okay.
So it's a lucky day.
So maybe the summertime. Amazing, guys. Barry, Jamie, Sorted Food. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been a really good time. Appreciate you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having
Josh.
us.
Full Discourse is a podcast hosted by me, Josh Elkin, produced by Diane Kang, Melissa D. Montz, and Diamond M Print Productions. Camera operator Jeff Liu, post-production sound by Coco Lawrence, production assistance by Melanie D. Watson, and music by me.